Hey, AP students, let's get to our Chapter 3 vocab words. And our first word is cannot. I cannot believe this is the first word. Oh, hey, oh, all right. Cannot. Cannot basically is a water irrigation system that was used by the Persians to get groundwater in the desert. If you look here, there would be a hill, there would be water where they would dig holes or their wells, and they would get it out to irrigate their land. It was an irrigation system, again, used by the Persian Empire to bring water to their people. And that is a cannot. I cannot believe that was the first word again. All right, I will stop. Next is Socratic Method. This is a method that was started by Socrates in Athens as a way of questioning to get to an answer. So basically, before you form your argument, you ask a series of questions, and you use this basically to have your discussions, to have arguments, and to find answers, and to get different people's opinions. You guys have used this in English class a bit too. That'd be the Socratic Method. Syncretic or syncreticism is basically taking two cultures or two religious beliefs and combining them. Language, culture, and combining them into one. We kind of see it in this chapter when we look at Greco-Buddhism is a perfect example of this. We have here the Buddha who's wearing a Greek toga. And what will happen in this chapter is as Alexander the Great spreads, he'll bring a lot of Greek ideas into the world, and it will merge with other ideas and combine into a Socratic point of view. So syncretism basically is the idea that religion's ideas are combining together. A polis is basically a city-state. Think Minneapolis. Polis at the end means like city. So it is a city-state where you basically have one city has its own government. It can rule over land around it for farming. And a polis would be the Greek city-states that existed and had a lot of power even over the areas around them, like an Athens or a Sparta. And the Acropolis would be the highest point of the city in a polis. Greeks had many different forms of governments in their Greek city-states. Many of them were very different from each other. A monarchy is one form of government. A monarchy is where you have a king or a queen who is in charge. And at this time, that king or queen, and this time almost always a king, would be in charge of everything and would make all the rules for that land. An aristocracy is a permanent upper class. People who are given titles, people who are not quite a king, but they're an upper class, they're given titles, and they have more power than regular people. They're kind of like we would call nobles in a way, where they're given a title, a name like Sir, and they have more power than other people in the society. And that would be an aristocracy, would be having a whole bunch of people who have titles, who own land because of their birth and title. And it's passed down from one generation to the next. An oligarchy is a system of government in which a small group of people hold power. So it's ruled by the few. We'll see this in our chapter when we look at Sparta, which has an oligarchy where there are military leaders who basically are in charge of the government. So it's ruled by the few, not just by like a tyrant or a king. A tyrant is someone who takes power by a force. They could become a king, they could become a dictator, but the word tyrant actually means someone who takes power by force. Now, we often think of really bad people who are tyrants, and that makes sense. In Greece, however, some of the tyrants who took power by force and tried to help the people. Some did not. So a tyrant, again, is someone who tries to take power by force. A direct democracy is where everyone is involved and everyone makes all the decisions. So in direct democracy in Greece, everyone in the city would vote on an issue who could vote. Now, it wasn't complete direct democracy because that meant only the men who owned land. But all the men who owned land, they could vote. Where A direct democracy in its truest form means everyone gets to vote on every issue. You don't elect a representative. You don't elect a congressperson, a senator. That means everyone gets to vote every time on every issue. And again, in Greece, they had direct democracy, but it was patriarchal. Only men could vote. And also it was only men who could own land could vote. And this would be seen in Athens in Greece. I forgot to bring that up. This would be in Athens in Greece. Here we can see kind of a difference between a representative democracy and a direct democracy. In a direct democracy, everyone votes and they make the rules. Everyone votes on every single law. In a representative democracy, which works in bigger civilizations, people vote for a representative, and then these representatives make the laws. Not just one representative, there'd be many representatives and many people. And your representative you'd vote for that person, and they would then make the laws. So representative democracy means you elect a representative who then makes decisions for you. Kind of like a student government would here, where you pick your student government president, and they help make decisions for the students. Hellenistic means the spreading of Greek culture. It means the spreading of Greek culture. If you see Hellenistic, you are thinking of Greek culture. Now, the person most responsible for spreading Hellenism would be Alexander the Great, even though he's not Greek. He's not Greek. He's not Greek. My students last year made this mistake all the time. Not Roman. He's Macedonian. But he spread Greek culture and spread it to many places that he took over. Theaters, cities, philosophy, gods of the Greeks get spread. Even my son, who's reading the Percy Jackson books, is learning about Hellenism through those books because of the gods. So Hellenism is the spreading of Greek culture. A common currency means that everyone accepts basically the same kind of money or something in exchange for money for goods. So rubber bands could be a common currency, for example. If we all agreed that rubber bands were what we were going to use to trade goods, and that 10 rubber bands could buy you a notebook, and then we could all use rubber bands for money if we wanted to. So common currency just means everyone agrees on trading the same good, and we agree that it's the same value. Our common currency in the United States is dollars. Everyone thinks that dollars have value, so I can buy things with them. So common currency just means that we agree on one thing to exchange goods, one kind of money, one kind of object it could even be. That is a common currency. Caravanserais were places where people would stop to trade. These were located along the Silk Road, and these even started on the Royal Road with Alexander the Great. And these were basically places where travelers would meet and would trade goods. And they would meet from many different places all over the world who were traveling, and they could meet, they can go in there, they could be safe, and they could trade. And these started in Persia at the Royal Road, which will eventually become the Silk Road, which is going to become a really, really big thing in AP. And our last word is aristocrats, very similar to aristocracy. Aristocrats are just people of a higher social class. They're born with a title, they're born owning land, they're rich, and they have more power in a government. Kind of like princes, princesses, nobles we could call them. They own land and they pass it on to their kids, and they have a title. And that would be aristocrats.